Everything that is of everything else that is. Nothing is of itself alone. The perfume of the rose is part of the rose, and it is also a part of man, and of the winds, and of the garden wall. The perfume of the rose is light, as the rose is light, and so also is man, and the winds, and the garden wall. All that is light. Nothing is of itself alone. He who knows this greatest of all laws knows love. Love is a realization of the oneness of the universe. Love is the ecstasy of inspired thinking. God's thinking is ecstatic thinking. God is love. Until man knows from within his inner mind this law of the oneness of all things, it has no meaning for him. When man knows this law in his heart, he will have no limitations. When man knows this law so that its reaction within the soul of man is that of ecstatic, inspired contemplation, he will then begin to know the meaning of love. Unlimited power will then be his. His thinking will then be true thinking. All power is in true thinking. Thinking true may be likened unto a violin string sounded by the great master. 10,000 other strings tuned to the same pitch would sing in unison, unplayed upon. 10,000 other strings not so attuned would not know the ecstasy. They would be as though they were not. Inspired thinking is thinking in tune with divinity. Inspired thinking is thinking in exact pitch with the high octaves of divine thinking. The rhythm of light in the high octaves of light is the measure of true pitch and true thinking. True thinking of the inner mind makes true thinking of the outer mind. The outer mind thinks not in ecstatic measure. As a man thinks in his inner mind, so is he. The inner mind, within all men and within all things, is divine mind. The inner mind of man is tuned to the higher speeds of ecstatic thinking. Man may know the ecstasy of his own divine thinking if he will but tune his thinking to the high speeds or ecstatic meter of divine mind, which is within all men and all things. When man will so attune his thinking, then will he think in light. The inner mind of man alone can think in light. Inner thinking is ecstatic thinking. The outer mind of man cannot know light. The outer mind cannot know ecstasy. When man thinks in light, he will then know the perfection of divine ideal. He will be universal genius. Imperfection of ideal cannot exist. The entire ideal of thinking mind is good. There is no evil. There is no imperfection. That which man calls the created universe is the ideal of thinking mind. The ideal of mind is perfect, as mind in itself is perfect. Perfection of ideal is truth. Imperfection of ideal is electromagnetically impossible in this universe of equilibrium, as we shall see in later chapters of this book. Thinking true in light will give to man all power. He will have no limitations, except those that are universal. With his feet on the electrodes of the universe, and his eyes in the high heavens, impossibilities of yesterday will be simple achievements of today. With this knowledge from within, man can have dominion over all nature and all things. Man can have dominion over his own body and command it to health and to beauty and to comeliness. With the realization of this law in his heart, he will love and be loved of all men and all creating things, and he will know all things. All knowledge will come to man when he knows this law in his heart. All knowledge exists. Thinking man has all knowledge. Inspired man knows the law of love in his heart with the oneness of the universe. All knowledge is existent in the universe and is the inheritance of thinking man from divine mind, God and Father of man, and of all creating things. This inheritance of all knowing awaits every man to use it, and when he desires that knowledge. Next chapter is called Omnipresence. Man's concept of God as omnipresent or universally present is an inconsistent concept, for it does not include man or nature in that concept of God, or as part of God. Man has been so trained to look for God outside the realms of nature as an incomprehensible, substanceless God, separate and apart from himself and from that which he knows as the physical universe, that it has become a tradition of his thinking, a fixed habit of his thinking. It may be a shock, therefore, to the outer mind of man to find a comprehensible God, of which he himself and all phenomena of nature are one. If this discovery shocks man's earthbound mind, then he must learn to readjust his thinking, for there is no other God than mind, and there is no other mind than the one universal mind, nor is there any other purpose for mind than the purpose of thinking. Man cannot conceive any other purpose for mind than that of thinking, nor is there any other product of thinking than ideal. Creation is but an ideal of thinking mind. The divine concept, materialized into this universe of matter, is a stupendous ideal of mind, but it varies not one bit in principle from the simplest ideal of man, nor does it vary in universal mechanics from the dynamic principles employed by man for the materialization of his ideas. God is mind, man is mind. All idea of God or man is but the product of thinking mind, registered in matter as form of ideal. All ideal is an illusion of mind, and visible only to mind as an illusion. Ideal is held in form by mind for countless periodic intervals of evolution and dissolution. All thinking is universal thinking, immortal thinking. There is no mortal thinking. All ideal of mind is perfect. Imperfection of mind cannot exist. Separation of mind into parts is impossible. Therefore, there are not two minds or two substances. The one substance of mind is light. Light is universal. Man is light and man is universal. That which is universal is omnipresent. Man is therefore omnipresent. All matter is omnipresent. The universe has no extension, continuity, space, nor time. The oneness of the universe allows no exceptions, no mistakes, no error in its all-inclusiveness. Nothing is omitted from the entirety of mind. There are no separate parts to mind. No apparent part of mind has locality or position. All matter is universally present. All matter is light. Mind is light. Mind is the universe. Mind is all one. The next chapter is omnipotence. Omnipotence means all the power that exists. The omnipotence of the universe is limited in its expression by the limited power of the universal constant of energy to accumulate potential. The dynamic energy born of the action and reaction of universal thinking is the beginning of the activity of that which man calls electricity and magnetism, through which the universal constant of energy functions in the creation of separate appearances in matter by periodic changes of dimension. It is the beginning of apparent division of indivisible things into their apparent opposites. It is the beginning of sex. Sex begins when the opposites of light begin. It is the beginning of that which man knows as light, and of the colors of light. It is the beginning of life. Life begins when light begins.